Community was so messy behind the scenes, it's a miracle it made it to 6 seasons. Community aired its series finale 10 years ago this week, so here are some things I bet you never knew about it. The story behind Community starts in 2005 at Glendale Community College. You see, up-and-coming TV writer Dan Harmon was going through a rough patch with his girlfriend, and as a way to save their relationship, they enrolled in a Spanish class together at Glendale Community. And as he told the Daily News, we took Spanish together thinking, let's force each other to work on something that isn't sex. But as he told the AV Club, it didn't work. Harmon instead ended up in a study group with some classmates, against his better judgment, and became friends with that group despite not having much in common with them. And as he told the AV Club, I was in this group with these knuckleheads and I started really liking them. This experience would of course serve as the inspiration for Community. Quote, there was a flash where it was like, oh shit, this is what normal people do all the time. So I tucked that away for a rainy day. When NBC was interested in working with me, it was like, let's bring out the simple, grounded, realistic idea. And Harmon based the character of Jeff Winger on himself. He was arrogant and emotionally distant, but then came to value his new friends. NBC gave Community a pilot order in spring 2009 with Sony Television serving as producer, and Harmon got to work casting the series. He later said casting was 95% of putting the show together. For Pierce, Harmon considered Fred Willard, John Cleese, and Patrick Stewart. He was also a longtime fan of Chevy Chase, and while the actor was hesitant to do a sitcom, Chase was persuaded to take the job based on the strength of Harmon's writing. Harmon did have to warn Chase, though, to tone down his wise-ass persona because Pierce was supposed to be more pathetic. Joel McHale was mostly known for minor TV and film roles, plus his gig hosting The Soup before he landed Community. He was also blown away by the writing, and Dan Harmon was impressed with how he was able to remain likable while still displaying unsavory qualities. But the network apparently wanted Smallville's Michael Rosenbaum in that role. McHale later said it was very close between the two of them, but Harmon's preference for McHale won out. Gillian Jacobs didn't find out she was officially cast on the show until she got to the table read. When they announced she was a new cast member, she broke down in tears on the spot. Yvette Nicole Brown had been through a hard pilot season that year, and the day before she was supposed to read for Community, she thought maybe she'd skip the audition entirely. But then she read the script, thought it was hilarious, and changed her mind. Harmon wrote Senor Chang with Ken Jeong in mind, based on the deleted scenes of Knocked Up. He was only supposed to do 5 episodes, but when The Hangover came out in the summer of 2009, he was promoted to series regular instead. Prior to Community, Danny Pudi had done some minor TV arcs, but he was best known for his national commercials, specifically playing the butt dialer in a T-Mobile campaign. Community's producers actually recognized him from those ads, which helped him land Abed. For Annie, Harmon wanted someone like Tracy Flick from Election, and at first they looked at Asian and Latina actresses before ultimately landing on Alison Brie. Harmon intended Troy to be a dumb jock. At the time of his audition, Donald Glover was a writer on 30 Rock, and Derek Comedy's Mystery Team movie had just gone to Sundance. The pilot, by the way, was directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, aka the Russo brothers, and it was Joe Russo who saw Glover's work on YouTube and recommended casting him because he thought he'd be a star. The Russos, of course, would go on to direct many Community episodes, including its biggest installments, and they found a fan through that in Kevin Feige, who later hired them to direct several major Marvel movies. Oh, and speaking of Marvel movies and heavy hitters, future Black Panther Oscar winner Ludwig Göransson served as Community's composer. NBC liked the pilot and gave the show a 13-episode order, and they gave it a Thursday night time slot after Parks and Rec and The Office. Community debuted September 17th, 2009, and it was viewed by 7.8 million people. And then in October, NBC gave it a full 22-episode order, and then in January, tacked on 3 more episodes. Season 1's ratings hovered around 5 million for each episode, but then dropped to 4.4 million in May. Besides the Russo brothers, Season 1 included now well-known directors like Justin Lin and Seth Gordon. The first 5 seasons of the show were shot at the Paramount Studios lot, while Season 6 was moved to Radford, CBS's studio. The exteriors of Greendale, seen in Seasons 1, 2, and 6, were filmed at Los Angeles City College. Improv was encouraged on set, and Dan Harmon says Donald Glover gave his favorite ad-lib, the line, "I have the weirdest boner," from Season 1, Episode 15. Glover was such a good improviser, if the writers couldn't think of a joke, they'd just put in the script, then Donald says something funny. And speaking of the writing, while Harmon had a very funny writer's room that included people like Liz Kukowski, Dino Stamatopoulos, Chris McKenna, and Megan Gantz, Dan Harmon personally rewrote every episode so that they would fit his voice. Except, of course, Season 4, but we'll get to that. Jim Rash, who won an Oscar in 2011 for co-writing The Descendants, also wrote an episode in Season 4. Shooting days on Community were notoriously long. Alison Brie told The Independent, "We were lucky we loved each other so much because those long hours could have been a real slog. Instead, they were filled with maniacal, insane joking. We were in tears laughing all the time." While Joel McHale said, "The hours were insane. We were basically shooting a movie every week." Before they started shooting, the writers intended for Troy and Pierce to be a comedic duo on the show, like the show's Beavis and Butthead. But Harmon says they quickly realized that Chevy Chase is a soloist, and it was naive to think he would bend to their will. Instead, Troy and Abed became a comedic team naturally. Pudi explained, "Donald Glover and I clicked right away. One time we were doing an interview interview and started freestyle rapping to distract from whatever questions we'd got. From that, I think Dan got inspired to write the La Biblioteca rap, and those end tags just took off. As early as the first season, the show started to take big creative swings, mashing up genres and doing grand homages to movies and TV. Dan Harmon says that's because the network demanded standalone episodes that could be aired in any order whenever the network needed them. So that led to Contemporary American Poultry, The Art of Discourse, and Modern Warfare. Alison Brie said the weirder the episodes got, the more fulfilling it was. Brown explained, for some episodes we'd get together and watch whatever movie it was based on. Who signs up to do a 30-minute comedy and gets to be in an action film, a romantic comedy, a film noir, or a horror film? It was ridiculous how blessed we were. For 3 seasons, Harmon and company kept pushing the show creatively, peaking with a stop-motion animated Christmas episode in late 2010, which earned the show its only Emmy. There were classics like Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, which by the way was temporarily removed from streaming services for years over Ken Jeong's makeup that resembled blackface. There was a fake clip show called Paradigms of Human Memory where the phrase 6 seasons in a movie was first introduced. There was the paintball 2-parter at the end of season 2, and of course the sliding doors storytelling of remedial chaos theory. I could go on and on about the wild tonal shifts and immense creativity of those first 3 seasons, but while the show maintained a core fan base, ratings slipped over seasons 2 and 3, and by the end of season 3, under 3 million people were tuning in each week. Danny Pudi explained, "We didn't know if we were going to be renewed, and each episode felt like it might be our last." In May 2012, NBC did renew the show for a 4th season, but it fired Dan Harmon. You see, things were tense behind the scenes between Harmon and NBC, and Harmon and Chevy Chase, and also Dan Harmon later admitted that his own bad behavior, drinking, tardiness, sleeping, his aggressive perfectionism, but also his procrastinating, all contributed to his firing. We also learned in 2018 that Harmon made romantic advances on writer Megan Gantz and was then cruel to her after she rejected him. He later admitted to this publicly and apologized to Gantz, who accepted his apology. Anyway, back in fall 2010, Sony replaced Harmon with David Garaccio and Moses Port, creators of the CW show Aliens in America. They did 13 episodes that year, airing in spring 2013. Joel McHale said, "When we lost Dan, it was like losing a rudder. That was no fun." While Alison Brie said, "When he was gone, the show really did feel like it fell from grace. It dropped a notch creatively, and it was horribly unsatisfying." Viewership held, but reviews slipped. Season 4 is the worst rated on Rotten Tomatoes. Chevy Chase then left the series in the middle of season 4. Ultimately, Chase didn't want to work the long hours anymore, and it became a bad culture fit, where the rest of the cast and Chevy were no longer getting along, as Chase's unruly behavior, including him using the N-word in the context of a political discussion, started to weigh on all of them. But due to a successful fan campaign, NBC renewed Community for a 5th season consisting of 13 episodes, and it brought back showrunner Dan Harmon. But sadly, Donald Glover made the decision to leave the show to pursue music and his own TV series. Though, as a favor to Harmon, he agreed to stay on for the first 5 episodes of season 5. Everybody was relieved to have Harmon back, though Yvette Nicole Brown says David and Moses deserve credit for making the show as best as they could in season 4. Season 4 was later referred to as the gas leak year, meaning a gas leak had made the characters act differently. The final season saw an influx of new and returning cast members for long arcs, including John Oliver, Jonathan Banks, Paget Brewster, and Keith David. And while the ratings had remained stagnant, about 3 million viewers each week, NBC finally decided to cancel the show for good in 2014. It would not reach its prophesied 6 seasons and a movie. Or would it? Fans once again rallied, this time around the hashtag 6 seasons and a movie, and Sony started shopping the show around to other networks and streamers, including Hulu and Comedy Central. And then, on June 30th, 2014, the day the cast contracts were set to expire, Yahoo announced it would give Community 13 more episodes on its new streaming platform, Yahoo Screen. So it would get those 6 seasons after all. But Yvette Nicole Brown decided to exit the show to be with her ailing father, though she did appear in 2 episodes in season 6. Community season 6 debuted on Yahoo Screen in March 2015, finally bringing Community to a close on June 2nd, 2015. By January 2016, Yahoo shut down its streaming service and took a $42 million write-down due to the poor performance of its original content. And that seemed like the end of Community for good. Despite its rocky later years, the show still has a cherished legacy and remains a cult favorite. In 2021, the BBC named it number 44 on the 100 best shows of the 21st century, and in 2023, Variety named it number 100 of the greatest 100 shows of all time. But what about 6 seasons and a movie? The thought of a Community movie started to brew at Yahoo during season 6, and over the next decade, Harmon kept saying that he was interested in doing it. The entire cast, minus Chevy Chase, had also expressed interest in making it happen, and then in 2021, Dan Harmon revealed he had begun writing a script. In September 2022, Peacock announced that it would be making it happen, and over the last 2.5 years, the entire cast, minus Chevy Chase, has said they're on board. But as of summer 2025, filming has not yet taken place, so stay tuned. And if you've made it to the end of this video, drop a pop in the comments.